Is my timer ready? Oh. Are my opponents ready? Okay, are my judges ready? Okay. In October of 2017, the hashtag MeToo started on social media to help demonstrate the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and harassment. Women started to retweet the hashtag and even share their own stories, making the hashtag go viral and creating a powerful movement for women all over the world. Hi, my name is Annika, and I'm a part of the proposition side, and we strongly support the resolve that the MeToo movement has done more good than harm. My first assertion is that the MeToo movement raises awareness of the magnitude sexual violence has. Sexual violence has always been such a huge problem in the world, but it's always been swept under the rug, ignored, disregarded. Did you know that according to RAINN.org, for every 1,000 rapes, 994 perpetrators will walk free? That's 99% of people who get away with rape. One example of a perpetrator who has been walking free is successful Hollywood film producer Harvey Weinstein. Weinstein has been accused of sexual assault spanning from even decades ago. Actress Rose McGowan, a victim of Weinstein's, says on Good Morning America, "I wish there were charges. I find it very strange. How many women does it take?" she said. "This is a lifelong career of rape for this man." Weinstein has been accused by over 60 women of various types of sexual assault and misconduct, according to People.com. So like Rose McGowan said, how many women does it take? If one man can treat women like this and get away with it, then what does that say about our society? Before the MeToo movement, the world had no idea there were so many sexual assault incidences, and the main reason for that was their fear of not being believed. This was especially a huge issue in the entertainment industry because powerful men like Weinstein would blacklist women. And by blacklist, I mean he would purposefully ruin their careers by telling lies to other producers. According to NBCNews.com, director Peter Jackson confirmed rumors about Weinstein banishing Mira Sorvino and Ashley Judd from the film industry. Jackson said, "I recall Miramax telling us they were a nightmare to work with and we should avoid them at all costs." So of course, women in the industry would be afraid to report sexual harassment against powerful men because they knew those men could ruin their careers. But now, because of the MeToo movement and all the stories women are sharing, sexual violence is now more aware to everyone around the world, and women are finally exposing those guilty perpetrators for who they really are. My second assertion is that the MeToo movement unites women around the world and encourages victims to speak up. For too long, women have been unsupported. Whenever a woman tried to fight back in court, most of the time they would lose. According to the National Violence Against Women survey, only 3.4% of all rapes led to a conviction for the offender. Women in every country who has experienced this have felt alone and afraid. But because of MeToo, they finally have a place to feel understood and be courageous. Usually the internet is a place where people can hide behind their screens and say mean things. But the hashtag MeToo has done the complete opposite. It has created a movement where people can, instead of hide, expose those who have done wrong. It has made the internet a more positive environment, which has united women from all over the world. There has been MeToo women's marches in Washington, Miami, New York, Denver, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, and even in places outside the US in cities like Rome, Paris, Athens, Barcelona, and Toronto. So as you can see, many people around the world are coming together for MeToo and are definitely sending a message in their power of numbers. And because there are so many women participating, it encourages even more women to join and speak up. That's why the MeToo movement has united women and sparked their courage to stand up for each other. So in conclusion, my first assertion is that the MeToo movement raises awareness of sexual violence, and my second assertion is that the MeToo movement unites women around the world and encourages them to speak up. Thank you.
So how my name is Sydney. My group strongly indicates that the MeToo movement has done more good than harm. My opponent said that it raises awareness amongst the people about the problem, but how are people supposed to get an accurate representation of the problem when there are so many people that are falsely accusing men? She also said that it helps unite women around the world, but there are feminists in France that are worried that the MeToo movement is making women appear weak and easy targets for men because we are using it as a crutch instead of using it to empower people. My first assertion is that an online movement like the MeToo movement that is about something so serious was never fit or appropriate from the start. Men are being accused of harassment towards women when at the time it wasn't intended to be taken that way or have those intentions, and because it's such a big thing online, it's hard for victims of these accusations to defend themselves. In many cases where men have been falsely accused, they have lost their jobs and their reputations. When people say stuff like someone sexually assaulted me online, it doesn't give the matter the privacy on both sides that it deserves. It also doesn't give the person being accused a chance to defend themselves, making the statement everyone is innocent until proven guilty hard to stay true to, because as soon as something is posted online, it's almost immediately pronounced guilty because people don't have all the facts, and only one side of the story, so online campaigns such as the MeToo movement are always incapable of moderation and completely unsustainable for any kind of serious examination. My second assertion is the MeToo movement has blurred the line between what is considered sexual assault and what isn't. Men are being accused of harassment towards women when they don't really know what it is they are getting on. One case of this is Pixar's John Lazarus, who took a 6-month leave of absence after complaints of inappropriate behavior. In an interview, he said that it was never my intent. Collectively, you mean the world to me, and I deeply apologize if I let any of you down. I first want to apologize to everyone who has been on the receiving end and wanted, however, every gesture that they felt crossed the line in any way, shape, or form. No matter how minute, everyone has the right to set their own boundaries and have them respected. While this is true, the MeToo movement has made it very hard to see what is considered as sexual harassment or assault. Sexual harassment, as defined by the United States Department of Justice, is any type of sexual conduct or behavior that occurs without the explicit consent of the recipient. Falling under the definition of sexual assault are sexual activities and forced sexual intercourse, child molesting, incest, and attempted rape. Something like a hug in this case is not considered sexual assault or harassment, seeing as the giver and the recipient were both able to turn on the hug. With the uprising of John Lazarus, many suspicious leads of people he has worked with and is still working with are being brought up and criticized. One of the stories by the Hollywood Reporter involved the making of Toy Story 4 writers Rashida Jones and Wilma Clark. The story claims that they left the project early because Lazarus had made an unwanted victims. But this is not true. In a statement, both Lazarus and Wilma said, "The parted way is of a creative indifference, and more importantly, the power of differences."
Hello. Before I start, I'd like to say that some parts that I will be talking about, it may be unsuitable for some people. It's talking about suicide, rape, and sexual assault. So I'm just, saying that. So in the beginning, my opponent stated how there were false accusations of people who were part of the MeToo movement. If you look at the big picture in the MeToo movement has done more good than harm. And a big example was Larry Nassar, where he was actually proven guilty and put away because people came together and said, "Me too." And that'll lead me to my first assertion. My first assertion is that the MeToo movement gives justice to those who are victims of sexual assault and puts an end to powerful men who take advantage. So, does everyone know who Larry Nassar is? Well, he was a man that was proved of sexually abusing over 150 women. According to Gale, an online database that MidPAC has provided, an online broadcast hosted by David Green and eyelined by Kate Wells, it stated that Nassar is seen as a miracle worker. His walls were plastered with pictures of his patients on the Olympic gymnastics team. Ruth Bedford, a victim that was so-called treated by Nassar, her teammates told her that he was a little touchy, but in reality he was inappropriately touching their genitals without wearing gloves or getting consent. Nassar often performed these procedures with parents in the room. He positioned his body or a towel so they couldn't see. Christy Lemke Akil was a neighbor of Nassar's, and their families were close. Her daughter Lindsay is a gymnast and saw Nassar for treatment starting at the age of 9. And at the time, Nassar got away with all of his sick actions. According to Rhoda Bedford, she stated, he was a world-renowned doctor who treated so many athletes. Everyone knows he treated down there, and they didn't complain. And the outcome that surfaced from this man's actions negatively impacted so many lives. An example is Chelsea Markham. After a session with Larry Nassar, once in the car, she began to cry. She said to her mother, "Mom, he put his fingers in me, and they weren't gloved." But her mother wasn't sure to believe her, because she did not visually see the operation. After this incident, the following year, she quit gymnastics. She stated, "I can't do this anymore, because every time I see him, I just flash back to what happened in his office." She soon later battled with depression, and it was great enough for her to take her own life away in 2009, and it all started with him. Another example is an article from People.com, Larry Nassar, titled, "Larry Nassar, Victim at age 6, says father didn't believe her, and guilt led his to suicide." In this article, it states Kyle Stevens and her family were very close with Nassar's. Kyle stated in her moving testimony, he began sexually abusing her in her own home when she was a kindergartner. The abuse put a strain on her relationship with her parents, noting that her family initially did not believe her when she first told them about the abuse. Again, at 12 years old, Kylie Stevens told her parents about the abuse, but once they confronted Nassar, he lied and got them to believe he did nothing. And finally, at 18 years old, before Kylie went to college, her parents finally believed her. Her father, who defended Nassar for most of her life, committed suicide because he could not bear the shame of defending Nassar for the actions he had done to his daughter. Because of Nassar, human beings committed suicide. Because of Nassar, families were shattered. Because of Nassar, individuals struggled with fear and depression to this day. But do you want to know what's the sick thing about all of this? And people like Larry Nassar. Can I just say in the end, it was all because of the brave statements of coming out like Simon Bowles. She stated, "I too am one of the many survivors that's sexually abused by Larry Nassar." She said Monday afternoon in a Twitter post with the hashtag #MeToo. Thank you.
Are my judges ready? Are my opponents ready? Is everybody ready? Okay, so, hi, my name is Zach Hudeman, and our team negates the resolution that the MeToo movement has done more good than harm. My first assertion is the MeToo movement is becoming a witch hunt for men and a crutch for women all over the world. Women and people in general are now having a hard time telling what is just an attempt at seduction and sexual aggression. The MeToo movement is now making them, men all over the world, have to be extremely careful about anything they do, because right now it's hard to tell the good from bad. It can also make women to appear weak or vulnerable, because every time something even remotely uncomfortable happens, they immediately turn to help of others to get justification they think it deserves instead of handling it themselves. Around 100 signatories, which include French actress Catherine Deneuve, author Catherine Millet, publisher Joel Losfeld, and German film actress and singer Ingrid Kaven, have attacked social media campaigns such as the MeToo movement and the French version, Balance Ton Pork. Bardet is calling it hypocritical and ridiculous, and Catherine Deneuve is defending men's rights to hit on women. The MeToo movement has made it look like women are helpless, taking a step back for women's rights. My second assertion is people are being accused without due process. Accusers can ruin victims' career without any due process. Due process is a fair treatment through the normal judicial system, especially as a citizen's entitlement. When a woman accuses someone else of sexual harassing or any type of harassment that they felt was unconsulted, it can completely ruin their careers, whether it's true or not. People end up getting fired from their jobs because it'll look bad on a company if they keep a person working for them. It can also look like they support men doing this to women. What is due process? Due process is the fair treatment through the normal judicial system, especially as a citizen's entitlement. The Fifth Amendment says to the federal government that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, uses the same 11 words, called the Due Process Clause, to describe a legal obligation of all states. Lacey Carroll, a former beauty queen who has previously been arrested for making false sexual allegations against other people, she has accused David Copperfield, a modeling judge, of drugging and imprisoning her at his Bahamas house, and later assaulting her in 1988. FBI investigated the claim and raided Copperfield's house. After a long consuming investigation, no charges were filed against Copperfield, and Lacey Carroll was charged for making false sexual claims against another man. In 2010, she pleaded guilty and was given a fine and community service hours. David Kober comments about the MeToo movement in quotes, "We all want people who felt they've been victims of sexual misconduct to be empowered. As a rule, we should listen to them. So more will feel comfortable coming forward. It's important." He then added, "But imagine what it's like believing in a movement and having also been falsely accused publicity in the past, to have your entire life and your family's life turned upside down." Okay, my third assertion is people are being accused for crimes they've committed in the past. This is against the law because the Fifth Amendment against double jeopardy case, which is basically being accused for something twice after it all said and done. So overall, our team negates the resolution that the MeToo movement has done more good than harm.
Tyler, are you ready? Judges, are you ready? Opponents, are you ready? Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Paige Barney, and I negate the result that the MeToo movement has done more good than harm. I will now be reiterating my team's best points. One of my team's best points is that the MeToo movement is becoming a witch hunt for men and a crutch for women all over the world. Women and people in general are now having a hard time telling what is just an attempt at seduction or just sexual aggression. The MeToo movement is now making men all over the world have to be extremely careful about anything they do. It's also making women appear to be weak and or vulnerable because every time something even remotely uncomfortable happens, they immediately turn to the help of others to get the justification they think it deserves instead of handling it themselves. The MeToo movement has also made it look like women are helpless, and it's taking a step back for women's rights. This is from NPR. Another one of my team's best points is that people are being accused without due process. Accusers can ruin victims' careers without any due process. What is due process? Due process is fair treatment through the normal judicial system, especially as a citizen's entitlement. When a woman accuses someone else of sexually harassing or any type of harassment that they felt was unconsulted, it can completely ruin their careers, whether it is true or not. They can end up getting fired from their jobs because it tends to look bad on the company if they keep that person working for them. It can also look like they support men doing this to women. Our final point is that I'm going to reiterate is that the MeToo movement has blurred the lines between what is sexual assault and what isn't. Men are being accused of harassment towards women when at the time it wasn't intended to be taken that way or have those intentions. The MeToo movement has made it very hard to see what is considered as sexual harassment or assault. Sexual harassment is defined by the United States Department of Justice as any type of sexual contact or behavior that occurs without the explicit consent of the recipient. Of the arguments issued by my group today, the one that would affect most people would be that the MeToo movement has blurred the lines between what is sexual assault and what isn't. People have already been unsure of what is considered as sexual assault, and even more now. This is because women are now feeling entitled or empowered that they can do or say as they please without any consequences. The probability of this happening is extremely high because we are living through it now. The MeToo movement is causing more harm than good. We are in a time where everything said is taken seriously, and because of that, people are paying for others' words. The MeToo movement is going to have a long-term effect because so many people's lives have been affected. Although you may think these people's lives have changed for the better, they have not. It's been for the worse. The people who have been accused have lost their jobs, reputation, and sometimes even their families. An example is John Lasseter, who took a 6-month leave of absence after complaints of inappropriate behavior. He stepped away from his job to protect himself because he didn't know what people would come up with to drive him down. These people affected will never truly have the life they used to have because of these accusations. I strongly negate the resolve that the MeToo movement has done more good than harm, and I humbly ask for your vote. Are the judges ready? Okay, is my timer ready? So my opponent said that now men have to be extremely careful of their actions, but isn't that the point of Me Too? Don't we not want men to feel like they can do anything they want to women? My opponent also said that false accusations are being made. And yes, some women are making false accusations for their own purposes, but not everything is perfect. Every movement has its good and bads. It's inevitable that a small percentage of people will take advantage of the movement because that's just the way people are. But it doesn't disregard the fact that besides that small percentage of people who are making false accusations, Me Too has accused plenty of men who actually have committed sexual assault. My opponent also said that the Me Too movement has blurred the line between sexual assault and what isn't. But I disagree with that because I feel Me Too movement just exposed that some men don't really know the line between sexual assault and what isn't. And because you have guys who think things are okay, but they're not, and you have girls who overreact, but it's not actually sexual assault. But the fact that these people are coming out, I feel it's a good thing because that's just another problem being brought out and confronted that can hopefully give the answer of what the line is between sexual assault and what isn't. My opponent also said that this movement was not appropriate from the start, but I completely disagree with that. I think that this was a very necessary and appropriate topic to bring out because of how many people that were being affected by sexual abuse. And if this topic is inappropriate to talk about, then we're just hiding ourselves from reality because the world has to learn somehow the magnitude of sexual violence. And I prefer people to learn from Me Too rather than experiencing it themselves. Overall, my team made arguments that the Me Too movement raises awareness of sexual violence, unites women and encourages them to speak up, gives justice to those who are victims, and puts an end to powerful men who take advantage of women. All of these arguments showed why the magnitude of the Me Too movement is so big and how it positively affects women all over the world by bringing them together, exposing sexual abusers, and overall the millions of sexual violence that occurs. I mean, just imagine if the Me Too movement didn't occur, men such as Harvey Weinstein would just continue to sexually abuse more women, and the probability of women getting justice would be the same as before, very low. That's why the Me Too movement has been so important and necessary, especially because of its immediate effects. Since the hashtag MeToo is a social media thing, it gets out there instantly. This movement started in last October, and now Larry Nazar is sentenced to 178 for 5 years in prison. So because the Me Too movement has such a huge impact on the world and has so many benefits, women have a higher chance of working to improve our society and culture by putting up a fight to end sexual violence. That's why our group supports that the MeToo movement has done more good than harm. Thank you.